welcome to my channel. My name is Martine, and if you are new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some tropical insights, and I focus on both relationship and natal astrology. And if you like this video and you would like to see more content from me, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel. Also consider clicking the notifications bell if you want to see when I will post a new video. Also, if you are interested in a private reading, I do readings in astrology on a variety of topics ranging from relationship readings to career to transits for 2-3 years, or solar return charts or predictions for 1 year, etc. You are free to email me at the email address that I will leave in the video description, and I can send you a pricing list and reading options and any other details that you might require. Also, I want to mention that I have started membership options on this channel, and the short of it, just to give you the short perks that you will get if you choose to join the membership section, you will get 1 extra video per month for each membership stage or tier. So for the first tier, you will get 1 extra video per month. For the second tier, you will get 2 extra videos per month, so you will have access to level 1 and level 2 videos. And for level 3 or third tier, you will get 3 extra videos per month. The level 1 and level 3 videos are going to be on a variety of topics, so basically anything related to astrology, but it will be content that is not shown on my regular usual videos, right? So this is members only exclusive content, and it can range from, tips and tricks on how to read a horoscope to, I haven't done this yet, but I plan on doing maybe members only astrological synastry for famous couples, for instance, or the analysis of famous people's horoscopes, but then I can also get into divisional charts, etc., etc. So all kinds of things. The level 1 or second tier of membership options is especially related to synastry astrology topics, meaning relationship-oriented astrology. So this could be things like how to discover which kind of partner archetype is right for you according to your horoscope, or it could be, again, different characteristics, whether you're going to have a good marriage according to your horoscope or a less than stellar marriage. But you can find more concrete examples in the lists that you will find in the video description, because I have added the playlists where you can already see all the videos that I have posted in each members section. So yeah, you can see what videos you will have access to from the ones that I have already done. But I will continue to post, like I said, 1 extra video per month for each level of membership. And in addition to that, in the members only section, you will have access to members only polls, and you will also have priority when it comes to getting your comments replied to on my channel. And you will also have stickers that basically show up next to your username that show that you are a member, and a couple of exclusive emojis. All right, so that's pretty much all the perks that you can have as a member on my channel. If you're curious, you can check the video description for more details as well, or you can click the join button under any of my videos to also see the prices, because the prices will be shown in your local currency. All right, in addition to the members only section, I also have a tarot channel, and I post there semi-regularly, and I will be linking the tarot channel in the video description as well as in the pinned comment. It's called Martine's Tarot. So if you are curious about tarot, if you're into it, maybe check out my channel, maybe subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening to this intro. And now I'm going to get straight into today's topic. Hello, welcome to my channel. Welcome to another video from me. So today's topic is going to be something that I've been meaning to talk about for quite some time, maybe more than 6 months now, for maybe more than 6 months. And it's something that I kept putting to the test this whole time, and for longer than the past 6 months, actually. It's something that I've been practicing for years now, actually. And it may seem like, a kind of a frivolous topic. It's definitely not the usual astrology stuff that I post. But I thought, I mean, I've seen so many pieces of evidence to support that this is effective and that it actually increases productivity that I felt like I really wanted to share it. And I feel like I've also experimented a lot with it myself. And the topic is, how do the days of the week impact productivity? Or a better way to put it is how to increase your productivity, your efficiency by using the days of the week. And this is not just, by the way, coming from, I don't know, the tropical perspective. It's actually coming from the Vedic tradition as well. Every day of the week is ruled by a planet. And in fact, I don't remember the full theory about this, but I do remember a long time ago when we did when I was studying English as a second language in school, we were told where the names of the days of the days of the week came from, and there were, I think, the original names either in Latin or some other language for the planets that are actually governing each one of them. So Monday is ruled by the moon. Tuesday is ruled by Mars. Wednesday is ruled by Mercury. Thursday is ruled by Jupiter. Friday is ruled by Venus. Saturday is ruled by Saturn. Sunday is ruled by the sun. Right? So with some of them, I guess Sunday and Monday are pretty obvious because sun, Sunday, moon, Monday. The other ones, to be honest, I don't remember what the original, but I'm sure if you could do a little bit of research, you can find the original names for the planets and how these names for the days of the week kind of derived from those names. But aside from the introduction, so as you may imagine, right, each planet, I mean, definitely for those of you who have been watching a lot of my videos or have been with me for a long time, I mean, you probably already, actually, I don't remember if I ever mentioned this topic on my channel specifically, but you do remember definitely that each planet, so I don't know if I mentioned that, every day of the week is ruled by a particular planet, and every hour is ruled by a particular planet. This is used a lot in horary astrology. I don't know if it's called horary or, or Hora astrology, something like that. Again, I personally don't use it because when it comes to these types of divinations, I prefer to rely on tarot, which is something that I'm way more comfortable with. But there are a lot of astrologers who use this, and the theory is, for instance, you build a chart for the time when a certain question pops up into your mind and to see how things are going to play out with that particular topic. Anyway, just a brief of it. And there's also like planning events, right? So by the hour as well, but I'm not going to get that into detail right now. I'm going to stick to the day and what each day is good for based on the ruling planet, right? So, and also, again, I'm probably going to sprinkle some of my personal experiences as well. So, without further ado, Monday, right, which is ruled by the moon. So, what does the moon rule, right? First of all, the moon is the mother archetype. It has to deal with anything that involves nurturing, either mothering or dealing with your mother, right? It deals with liquids. The moon rules the oceans, so fluids in general, but especially the sea, especially natural waters, right? The moon rules transport, travel, because of the connection to waxing, waning, change in general, right? It is connected to import export, right? So anything that is, well, travel in all its forms basically, but also import export, deliveries, in other words, right? Shipping things, right, would be good on the moon day. So another thing that it rules is food. So the moon rules the chest, the stomach, again, any act of nurturing, right? So eating, nurturing yourself, cooking as well, nurturing others, being nurturing towards others or receiving nurturing, right? So in other words, for instance, therapy, psychotherapy would be good on Monday. Another thing is the moon rules imagination. It's a very fertile sort of planet when it comes to imagination, especially intuition, right? Intuition, so flashes of intuition. The moon, the Monday, the day of the week, Monday, I mean, would be good for things like doing yoga, meditation, anything that kind of borders on this, doing more gentle exercises that have to deal with, balancing the mind-body connection, like Pilates, for instance. Then the moon is also good for, Monday. I keep saying the moon. Well, they're kind of interchangeable in some ways. But yes, Monday, right? It's good for dealing with your mother, dealing with nurturing others in any way. Like I said, cooking for other people, cooking for yourself can also be a good thing. Although cooking, it's not the best day for cooking. The best day for cooking would be Sunday, but I'm going to get to that. Because, well, the moon rules waters and it's kind of a cold energy, right? So technically fire activities would not be ideal exactly, but it's not the worst day for cooking, right? It's good for nurturing. So I would say cooking is also pretty good, but definitely any kind of activity that stimulates creativity, imagination, meditation, your intuition, practicing your intuition. All of these things are very good to practice on Monday, and you will have more success with these activities on Monday. Another thing is that I've noticed personally, because I have fish tanks, right? And I've had fish tanks for a while, and on and off actually for years. And something I noticed is that I actually always feel like cleaning my fish tanks or, spending more time, either admiring my fish or like working on my fish, or I suddenly get ideas about what I want to do with my fish tanks. On Monday, and I don't think it's a coincidence. It's because, again, the moon rules waters and anything that has to do with aquatic stuff. Another thing, of course, is any kind of water-related activity is going to be favored on Monday. Swimming, anything. Going to the beach, surfing, right? Going to a mountain lake, kayaking, anything like that. And let me think. Also, because it rules the chest in maybe an indirect way, it's a good time to take care of any kind of chest-related things, like either chest-related activities, like, if you're going to the gym, work on your pectoral muscles, getting any kind of exam, like medical exam that has to deal with the chest or the stomach is particularly going to be favored on Monday. So, and by the chest, I also would include, if you have blood pressure problems or even heart problems, still favorable to do on Monday. Any activity dealing with this would be favorable on Monday, would be favored on Monday. And yeah, I think that's about it. So moving on to Tuesday and what activities would be favorable for the day of Tuesday. Now, because Tuesday is ruled by Mars, of course, the most favorable activities would be physical activity, right off the bat. Not just physical activity. And again, I'm going to throw in a parenthesis right now before I forget to say this. I was thinking about this recently, how I've noticed a pattern, and maybe it's just me, I don't know. But there is a saying, actually, I don't know if the saying exists in other languages, but I've definitely heard it at some point, that is something like, on Tuesday, there are 3 evil hours. So the theory being, it's kind of like Friday the 13th, right? I mean, Tuesday the 13th, at least around where I'm from, is kind of a superstitious. It's a superstition that something bad is going to happen because there are 3 bad hours. I don't know where this comes from, but and the reason I think this is, and again, I could be going totally off, but I have noticed evidence of this, that people tend to run into arguments more on Tuesday, or I seem to maybe notice arguments a lot more on Tuesday. I also think that people are more prone to arguments, like they're more prone to losing their tempers on Tuesday. Accidents are also more likely to happen. I wonder if there is some way to check statistics. That would be something, really. I don't know. I haven't looked into this, but if any of you, I don't know, can check statistics for a particular country or maybe worldwide of what's the day of the week with the most accidents, it would be interesting to see. Anyway, but I would not be surprised if people were more likely to have accidents on Tuesday, because again, it's ruled by Mars, and Mars rules the physical body, mechanical issues. Another thing is, of course, ruling mechanical issues. Anything that involves taking care of anything physical, mechanical is a good activity to do on Tuesday. Like, I don't know, if your laptop breaks down, and anything connected to engineering, by the way, as well. Right, so your laptop breaks down, going to fix it on Tuesday is a good idea, right? Your, sorry, let's say, what else? I was just thinking about if you break your bones, although that's more negative, but that could also be a thing, yeah. So, like I said, Mars rules any kind of accidents because it's the co-ruler of Scorpio, the connection to the 8th house, which rules accidents. So, yeah, while on the one hand, people might be more prone to accidents on Tuesday, I think they might also be more likely to fix their problems when it comes to accidents on Tuesday. Like getting to see a doctor for mechanical issues. Another thing, anything connected to the head. Mars rules the head, anatomically, right? So anything connected to the head, like seeing a dentist, seeing a hairdresser, getting a facial treatment, I don't know, all kinds of things, getting lip injections would be more favored on Tuesday, which is ruled by Mars. Anything involving combat, right? Anything like if you're practicing martial arts, or self-defense courses, or going to the shooting range, anything involving weapons to some extent as well, especially weapons that don't involve heat, actually, but also weapons that involve heat, because Mars is a friend of the sun. So the bottom line is that basically, well, I probably should have said this from the beginning, so I'm going to say it at the end as a conclusion. I'm not going to say it right now so that everyone else hears it. Anyway, where was I? So yeah, Mars rules the head, it rules physical activity, it rules the physical body. So like I said, any form of physical activity is favored. Also, anything that would require a certain amount of daring, right? Even situations of conflict. Tuesday is definitely not going to be the ideal moment to reach a diplomatic consensus, right? It's way more likely to produce friction and to produce conflict, actually. But if you are in a situation where, let's say, conflict is inevitable and you have to sort things out either way, then Tuesday is probably the favorable day to do something like, I don't know, settle a competition. Actually, competitions of all kinds, again, would be favored on Tuesday. Same thing with, things like debates. So anything that basically is kind of a competition would be favored. Anything. Chess, debates, sports, swimming. Now, because Mars is also friends with Jupiter and the Sun, the activities that are ruled by Jupiter and the Sun would also be quite favored on Tuesday, right? So Jupiter rules, I would say not so much Jupiter, but yeah, I would throw Jupiter in there as well. So because Jupiter rules knowledge, education, academia, publishing, travel, all of these things could also be favored on Tuesday, right? Also, reading, cultivating yourself, picking up a philosophy book to some extent as well. And then the sun being friends with Mars, it means that all of the activities governed by the sun are also favorable on Tuesday, which means things like anything involving fire, right? So like I said, you could also throw in firearms there. So going to a shooting range, I don't know, doing a grill, a barbecue, also cooking in any form, right? Cooking would be favored, on Tuesday. Also, activities involving children, spending time with children, educating children. Also, any kind of creative activity, any kind of creative self-expression, going to the movies, going to the ballet, to dancing, to anything like that. It's kind of creative, which is what is ruling the sun. So any kind of self-expression that is creative would also be favored on Tuesday. And again, since Mars rules anything mechanical, like I said, any form of engineering, especially not so much like biological engineering, so not so much things like, let's say, bioengineering, genetics or something, especially things that have to deal with robotics, with, mechanical stuff, basically, like IT stuff as well. And so anything like fixing a car, getting a car, or any other vehicle, whether it's an e-bike or a car or a bike or a ship or anything, any kind of activities that have to deal with mechanical structures would be favored on Tuesday, especially. And then also any form of real estate activities would be favored on Tuesday, because Mars also rules real estate, especially land. Right, so I'm looking for an apartment. Good idea to do it on Tuesday. I don't know, looking for a restaurant for your wedding or looking for a venue for your wedding. A good idea to do it on Tuesday. So anything connected to real estate, right? Looking for a hotel for your vacation. Good idea to do it on Tuesday. And ultimately any form of self-assertiveness, right? So I don't know, you want to confront someone who has been pushing your boundaries. It's a good idea to do it on Tuesday. The gods are going to be on your side. Let me put it like that. I'm being, how should I put it? Dramatic over here, trying to be epic a little bit. I'm actually monotheistic, but I like the drama of saying the gods are going to be with you. So anyway, moving on to this. So this is pretty much what I could say about Tuesday. If anything else pops up, I will say it along the way as usual. So moving on to Wednesday, which is ruled by Mercury. Now, Mercury is the sign of youthfulness, young people, communication, intellectual activity. It's the sign of the apprentice. It's the sign of analytical thinking, of detail-oriented activities, of logic. It's the sign of doing things with your hands, right? Mercury rules the hands, the arms, the shoulders, to some extent the respiratory system as well. So Wednesday would be good, first of all, it would be good for any activities involving young children. I don't know, if you have young kids, it's a good idea to take them to the park on Wednesday or do any kind of activities together, right? Aside from that, any kind of intellectual activity, any kind of learning is very favored on Wednesday. So, well, any form of, I don't feel like I need to give any examples about learning, whether it's formal learning, like learning for a degree, for a university, taking exams, of course, would be very good if you could schedule them on Wednesday, because then you will have the analytical energy of Mercury favoring you. And then, aside from this, anything involving communication, writing an important email, writing a book, if you're working on a book, right? Writing would be very favored. Communicating of any form, having a video chat, right, with a relative from far away or something, or doing a podcast, right? Wednesday is going to be favorable. Reading, again, same thing. Studying languages especially, right? Or any kind of, studying of all kinds actually is going to be favored, but especially things that are very focused on logic, very focused on attention to details. So I don't know, accounting, doing your accounts would be very favored on Wednesday. Also, learning anything about finances and investments are also going to be favored on Wednesday because Mercury is one of the business planets, right? Learning how to multiply your income. Very useful to do it on Wednesday. You're going to be favored. You might be getting better ideas to do so if you're doing it on Wednesday. Again, when it comes to medical issues, since Mercury rules the hands, the arms, the shoulders, and the respiratory system, the lungs, right, the upper chest, anything that it involves these, like if you have to get these things checked, it's best if you go on Wednesday because that's when the clarity on these issues is going to be highest. And you're probably going to get the most information and the most clear answer on these issues. Of course, if you have ailments that have to do with these parts of the body, it's a good idea to particularly focus on treating them on Wednesday. And then because Mercury is friends with Venus and Saturn, all of the activities that are governed by Venus and Saturn are also going to be favored on Wednesday. So Venus is, again, more money matters as well. So Wednesday isn't a particularly favorable day for dealing with anything financial. Planning your finances, going to the bank, asking for a loan, like I said, learning about investments, planning anything, your expenses, tracking your expenses, anything that has to do with managing finances is going to be very favored on Wednesday. Not to mention, of course, starting a business is going to be favored. Starting a job is going to be very favorable, on Wednesday. Speaking of starting a job, I only just realized as I said this that I've had probably at least 3 jobs that I could tell, because I remember just thinking how weird it was that these companies wanted me to start on Wednesday, but I had 3 separate jobs where I had to start on Wednesday, which I thought was very weird at the time. And I feel like this is because people subconsciously are kind of picking up on these energies, and they kind of subconsciously, intuitively, without even realizing it, gravitate towards certain activities on each day of the week, or associate each day of the week with a certain activity, right? Anyway, moving on. Right, so anything to do with finances, with work, job, of course, job hunting, anything to do with career, again, because Mercury has to deal with your finances. Venus has to deal with your finances as well. Venus also especially deals with savings, and then of course Venus also rules beauty, pleasures, hedonism, anything that you can enjoy through the 5 senses. So that also means that Wednesday is a good time to focus on beauty treatments, taking care of yourself, beautifying yourself and also your environment. And also, speaking of the environment, when you look into the Saturn influence, right, because Saturn is also friends with Mercury, Saturn rules anything that is kind of like, there's no nice way to put it, but I guess what traditional Vedic astrology would have called like lowly jobs or servant jobs, meaning cooking and cleaning. Especially cleaning was seen as kind of like, lower class work in some ways, right? So Wednesday is a good time to focus on cleaning, tidying, organizing, and also dealing with the Venus influence. It's good to treat yourself. I don't know if you're on a diet, treating yourself on Wednesday is a favorable activity, right? Because again, Venus is friends with Mercury, so Venus rules sweets and everything you enjoy, right? Of course, anything you enjoy through the 5 senses. So having a nice meal in general will be favored on Wednesday. Favored means you're less likely to see the negative impact of having a nice meal if you're doing it on Wednesday. And because of the Saturn influence, right? So Saturn has to deal, let me take it one step at a time. So when it comes to categories of people to deal with, like I said, Wednesday, Mercury actually rules young people, right? So Wednesday makes for favorable activities involving young people, teenagers, children. right? Irrespective of whether they're your children or anyone else's, right? Activities maybe involving the youth in general, like on a policy level or societal level, of course, again, are going to be favored on Wednesday. And then, where was I going before that? Right, about the Venus influence, right? So Venus is about beauty. So anything involving beauty, beautifying yourself, I don't know, wearing perfume, choosing a perfume, listening to music. If you are into music on a deeper level, learning an instrument, if you are trying to learn an instrument, it would be a good idea to schedule your lessons on Wednesday, for instance, Wednesday and Friday, and Thursday, actually, if it's a classical musical instrument. Aside from that, right, so like I said, I think I've mentioned it probably 3 times, but I'm going to mention it just one more time because it's important. So, beauty treatments, right? And also dealing with people, Venus rules young women who are not married. Venus also rules marriage in itself, right? It's the karaka of marriage. So anything romantic is going to be favored on Wednesday as well. Anything involving the romantic partner, working in one-to-one situations, reaching a consensus, negotiations, they're also going to be favored on Wednesday. Anything involving one-to-one situations or partnerships, again, is going to be favored on Wednesday. So, again, psychotherapy could be a thing, or any form of therapy for that matter. Anything involving contracts, signing a contract, planning a contract, any legal business, again, very favored on Wednesday. Aside from that, because of the Saturn influence, right, Wednesday is, like I said, it's going to be good for cleaning, doing any kind of work that is kind of repetitive but has to get done. It's going to be positive for dealing with the bones, dealing with old people as well. I know it sounds kind of like a contradiction, like Wednesday is ruled by Mercury, which is young people, so it's good for both young and old people because Mercury is friends with Saturn, like I said. Of course, the best activities are the ones that are ruled by Mercury. Those are the ones that are the most favored on Wednesday. But then on a secondary level, you can also do the activities that are connected to Mercury's friends, Venus and Saturn, right? So, like I said, dealing with old people, people who are older than you, basically, not necessarily ancient. And aside from that, dealing with anything involving the bones, right? So on a medical level, the bones, the minerals in the body, getting the minerals in the body tested, for instance, getting blood work, right? And now Venus, on the other hand, it rules the liver, the pancreas to some extent. So to some extent, it rules kind of the digestive system, parts of it, right? And also Mercury, by the way, speaking of the digestive system, it's kind of like a roundabout way to think about it, but Mercury, in my opinion, and based on my empirical experience, very much rules the digestive system, the intestines, especially the large intestine, especially, right? And Mercury also rules the nerves in the body, especially. So, and this is also why I think it especially reflects on the digestive system as well, because of psychosomatic illnesses. But again, I won't open this entire philosophy because I'll never end this video. But anything, right, involving the nervous system, of course, dealing with, like I said, psychotherapy, going to see a psychiatrist. If you're taking psychiatric medication, it's a good time to go for a checkup, checking your dosage, changing things. And or doing things that are good for the nervous system, right? Like taking a walk, like I said, meditation to some extent, doing something that just relaxes the mind, basically, focusing on the task that makes you happy. So because Mercury also rules the hands, any kind of activity that involves using the hands a lot is very favored on Wednesday, right? So knitting, pottery, massages as well, very good for Wednesday because you have both Venus and Mercury as influences with massages. Or seeing what are they called? Chiropractors, I think, right? Seeing a chiropractor maybe, or, going to physical therapy, anything where someone is putting their hands on you basically, and it's not involving something illegal, obviously, is going to be favored on the day of Wednesday. And now, because of Saturn's influence, it rules not just the bones, but it also rules, and well, aside from all the things that I mentioned so far, so bones and minerals and tedious jobs, basically, that most people don't want to do. Aside from that, also rules patience, right? And then it also rules discipline. And it also rules management of all kinds, time management, resource management, right? So all of these activities are going to be very favored on Wednesday. Okay, moving on to Thursday, which is ruled by Jupiter, right? So obviously Jupiter rules higher philosophy, religion, faith, optimism, joy, opportunity, abundance in all its forms, both physical and spiritual. It's an expansive energy, not expensive, but expansive, right? So it seeks growth. Any form of growth. This is why Jupiter rules travel. It also rules education, especially higher learning. Like when it comes to conventional education, it rules levels of master's degree and above. I would say even above master's degree. That's Jupiter pretty much. So getting your PhD or getting into research, that's more Jupiter oriented, right? Aside from this, Jupiter also rules animals of all kinds. To some extent, Rahu also rules animals, but Rahu does not govern a day of the week. So I would say, considering that, Jupiter is probably the best day of the week to deal with animals, whether it's pets or, I don't know, any other kind of animals, right? So if you want to take your pet to the vet, it's great if you can schedule that on a Thursday. It's just less likely to have inconveniences, basically, if you're doing this, the right activities at the right time of the week when they're favored. That's what I've noticed anyway. So obviously, I'm very curious to see people putting this to the test and getting feedback over the following months, maybe years, who knows. So anyway, because it rules animals, so any activity involving any living creature, if you have pets, right, this is the best day of the week to take care of them. And aside from that, Jupiter rules travel. I think I mentioned it, right? So a sense of adventure, getting out of your comfort zone in general, that's Jupiter, right? So any kind of activities that involve education, higher education especially, academia, especially things like publishing. So writing a book, again, publishing, getting published, very favored on Thursday. Aside from that, any activity that is spiritual in nature, religious in nature, very much favored on Thursday. Going to church to pray, very favored on Thursday. Foreign cultures, right, as well. So Jupiter, again, in the absence of Rahu, Jupiter would be the second best option that governs foreign influences of any kind. So dealing with foreigners, people from foreign cultures, people from different backgrounds, people who have different points of view than you is definitely going to be favored on Thursday. And of course, traveling in itself, did I mention traveling? I think I must have mentioned it like 3 times already. Sorry, it's late a bit again. Traveling, very favored. Whether you're planning a trip or you're actually starting a trip on Thursday, very favored, right? It's very favored as an activity on this day. Aside from that, Jupiter also rules, like anatomically, it rules the thighs. And it rules, well, actually, to some extent, it rules the entire leg, but I would say it rules especially the calves, actually, not so much the thighs, the calves and the knees, right? But since the days of the week are a little bit shortened, I think we can push it to say that it also rules the thighs and the hips to some extent. although hips are kind of somewhere between Venus and Jupiter. So anyway, basically, again, any kind of health problems that you have connected to these areas, it would be best if you schedule treatment on Thursday, or you spend extra time focusing on healing these issues on Thursday. Aside from that, spiritual activities, of course, also involve things like yoga, meditation, anything that has to deal with the mind-body balance. And I was thinking, especially because it rules animals, but it rules life itself, actually. Jupiter is the planet of life. So I would say it especially favors activities that have to deal with the life sciences. So nature studies, spending time in nature, and also biology, anything to do with biology, or like these STEM fields that have to deal with, the natural sciences, right? Which includes also chemistry, but especially things that have to deal, well, not especially, because chemistry is part of the natural world. So anything that has to deal with the natural world, with life itself, and I'm talking about God's work, not our work. I'm not talking about AI. That's not God's work. Sorry, I'm getting a bit preachy over here, am I not? And now, because Jupiter is friends to some extent with Mars, Jupiter is friends with the Sun, Jupiter is also friends with the Moon. So all of these activities that are ruled by the Moon, that are ruled by Mars, that are ruled by the Sun, are also going to be favored. So I have already covered the general activities that are ruled by the Moon and Mars, so you can check the early part of the video to see what those are. But when it comes to the Sun energy, right, so I think I've covered some of the Sun as well, but I'm just gonna say it one more time. So Sun activities, of course, something that is important to mention is when I look at the activities that are favored, ruled by other planets other than the planet that rules the day in question, it's best if you look for activities that actually mix qualities of both planets. So for instance, if you look at Sun and Jupiter, for instance, right? So Sun has to deal with creativity, with children, with fire, or any activity involving heat. It has to it has to do with the creative self-expression, especially with dramatic arts. It also rules government, actually, government, politics, right? So Sun is like the archetype of the ruler of a particular region. Also rules the father figure, right? Paternal figures in general, or men who are fathers in general as well. And if you look for activities that kind of blend these two energies, or blend multiple planets, there are multiple activities that are favored on Thursday. Like, let's say, if you mix Jupiter with the Moon and with Sun, right? Let's say this could mean, if you're a parent, right, spending a day, having a day trip with your child, for instance, or if a day trip is not possible, because I know most people are working on Thursday, right? Going a trip somewhere within the city, to the zoo, or especially something that is educational, actually. I don't know, going to a science fair, or going to a museum together, right, with your child, explaining things, maybe teaching them about other cultures, right? Having some kind of a spiritual activity, spending time with your kid in church. I'm sure that they will find that exciting. I'm being sarcastic, right? But something spiritual that you could do with your kids, right? And so look for activities that would blend all of the energies ruled by these individual planets, right? Those activities would be particularly favored. Right. So, or for instance, because again, Sun rules politics, Jupiter rules education, doing political education, right? If you're doing a degree in political science, Thursday is your best day to study, to get good grades as well, if you can schedule an exam, if you have the choice to schedule it, or But studying especially, right, or coming up with ideas for a paper or homework or something, right? Yeah, this has been pretty much what I can say about Thursday. And then Friday, right, the day which is ruled by Venus. I've already covered some of the activities that Venus rules. I think most of them actually. So Venus is the planet of pleasure, of hedonism, of anything you can enjoy through the five senses. It's also about beauty, it's about arts, and Venus especially rules music, right? To some extent, I would say it also rules any form of art, right? Visual arts, especially, but especially things that have to deal with like enjoyment through the five senses, right? So, music is the main thing because Taurus is governing the throat and the voice, the vocal cords, right? So, it obviously going to concerts very favored on Friday. And then any kind of activity that you just do for fun, anything that your heart desires, right? Because Venus is also love, anything you love, and of course anyone you love. So then Friday is also good for romance, courtship, dates, marriage even, right? Since Venus also rules contracts, Friday is a very good day to get married, right? Venus is also, like I said, about beauty. So any kind of beauty treatment, any activity that is meant to enhance your physical attractiveness, except hardcore exercise, because that's not ideal on Friday, would be good for you to engage in. It would be favored, right? So cosmetic treatments, manicure, pedicure, going to get a massage, going to the spa, blah, blah, blah. All of these things, right, would be favored. And then, of course, any activity involving beauty in general, beautifying your environment, decorating, painting, drawing, fashion design, buying clothes, right? Trying on different clothes, all of these activities, anything to do with Venusian things are going to be particularly favored on Friday. And then of course, because Venus also rules finances, especially savings, right? Friday is also a very good day to plan your budget, to manage your finances, to go to the bank, I don't know, any kind of deals that you have to do to focus on with your finances, paying taxes, paying your bills to some extent. Although I would mostly leave this to Wednesday because Venus is much more about fun, right? But it's not, again, it's also quite favorable it's also quite favored to do these kinds of activities as well on Friday. And then, of course, because Venus is friends with Saturn and Mercury, all of the activities ruled by Mercury and Saturn are also going to be favored on Friday, which means cleaning, right? Saturn, that rules cleaning. Doing anything that's kind of like boring stuff and boring repetitive actions that have to be done. Since Saturn also rules discipline, for instance, this is why Friday is the best day for any kind of beauty treatments, right? Because you have the blending of discipline and beauty, right? So, I don't know, getting an anti-cellulite massage or doing a Pilates lesson. I would say Friday is also good for exercise as long as it's not very intense exercise, because that's more of the Mars type. But doing something like a relaxing yoga class or Pilates exercises, you know, things that are not too hardcore, too strenuous, and they're a lot more focused on things like building, let's say, elasticity in the body, or like building sculpting, right? That's the best word. Sculpting the body, changing the shape of the body, right? Not so much cardio and like weight training. That's hardcore stuff that I would leave for Tuesday or Sunday, or to some extent Thursday as well. Yeah. And yeah, these are all these things. So anything to do with something that involves discipline and beauty, very favored on Friday. And then of course, if you are, for instance, someone who wants to become an artist or you're studying art, Friday is, again, your best friend to practice your art, to maybe get good ideas when you're trying to produce something creative, right? Because, it's the blending of repetition, Saturn and Venus, beauty and arts, right? So it's a good time to work towards your craft if you are an artist or you're planning on becoming an artist. And then because of the Mercury energy, right? Mercury being blended with Venus, this can also show this day is going to be very good for romantic communication, right? Because Mercury is communication. So I don't know, writing a poem for your, who does that, but just giving a random example, but like writing poems to your romantic partner, for instance, that would definitely be very favored on Friday. Aside from that, communicating, right? Any form of communication with your romantic partner, spending time with romantic partners, going on dates, like I said, all of these things very favored. And then because Mercury actually also rules the online environment, right? And this is very general, of course. I would advise checking more personal transits and dashas and everything, right? You can't just go by, because there's a Friday in every week. So, but, let's say more than other days of the week, this is a good time to meet someone online, right? Or to spend time online, maybe especially to look for a romantic partner, right? So getting on a dating website if you have faith in them. Or, I don't know, or doing some kind of, by the way, speaking of online, right? So anything that is kind of involving online and fun would be very favored on Friday. Aside from this, right, again, any form of finances, I think I mentioned it twice. So I would say Wednesday and Friday are the best days of the week to deal with finances, savings, loans, all of that stuff. Loans, I would say actually maybe even more so, are favored on Thursday because it's ruled by Jupiter. But any kind of other financial activities, definitely best to do on Wednesday and Friday. Then moving on to, before I move on, actually, so anatomically, right, I think I have said this, so Venus, I would say, rules the pancreas, the liver, the filtration system of the gallbladder to some extent also, so, and if you have any issues, right, with these areas of the body, it's particularly good if you go get a checkup on Friday, or if you schedule treatment on Friday, even surgery, heaven forbid. Aside from this, right, because Venus is friends with Mercury and it's friend with Saturn, this also shows that Friday is a good day to also check the anatomical parts ruled by Mercury and Saturn, which means for Mercury, that is the hands, arms, shoulders, the respiratory system, and for Saturn, that is the bones, the feet. All right, so any problems with your feet, any problems with your bones, including your teeth, it's good to get a checkup on Friday or to schedule treatment on Friday. You are more likely to have success with these things if you're going on Friday because that's when this planet is strong, right? Because it's favored by its friend. Either because it's favored by its friend or because it's ruled by the planet itself, right? So if you have liver problems, gallbladder problems, get them checked on Friday. To some extent, I've also said this, I would say I would also put with Mercury, the nervous system as well, and the intestines. So with Venus and Mercury together, the entire digestive system, except for the stomach, maybe, and like everything above the stomach, that's a little less favored on Friday, right? I would say anything to do with the stomach is favored on Monday. Okay. Aside from this, moving on to Saturday, right? So, because Saturday is ruled by Saturn, and I know that some people, because I know Jewish people, for instance, right, they celebrate Shabbat and they don't do any work on Saturday, but according to astrology, Saturday is actually the best day of the week to do work, basically, especially boring, tedious work. So cleaning, especially, I was gonna say cooking, but not so much cooking, cleaning. And actually, I thought about this. It's so ironic because at least, I don't know if this is a Christian thing. I mean, I guess it must be a Christian thing, right? Because like I said, if you're born in a different religion, then you think Saturday is for fun. But the whole time when I was growing up in Eastern Europe, where people are predominantly Christian still, even if they're not religious Christian, they're still kind of influenced by Christianity without realizing it. So, when I was growing up, most people that I knew, because again, they're working Monday to Friday, Saturday was a cleaning day, always. Like most people, they focused on cleaning their homes on Saturday. And again, I don't know if I could leave this to subconscious influences or the planets or whatever it is, but I would definitely say that Saturday is the best time to clean. So, because again, it's ruled by Saturn. Aside from that, Saturn also rules not just, tedious activities that have to be done, like cleaning, anything repetitive, really, and repetitive, monotonous, potentially annoying and frustrating is ruled by Saturn. So, anything that involves patience is ruled by Saturn. Anything that involves time and is long term is ruled by Saturn. So, for instance, Saturday is a good day to plan your next 5 years, right? Or what are you going to do to achieve your long-term goal, right? It's a good day to work towards a long-term goal, again. It's also anything to do with the state or legal business is favored on. I should have said this about Friday, but I'm saying it right now. So Venus, to some extent I said it about negotiations and contracts, but any kind of legal business, again, favored on Friday and Wednesday as well, because these are ruled by Venus and Mercury, which are Saturn's friends. But it's especially favored, so any kind of legal business, especially involving the government, the state, the ruling powers, taxes, right? So any form of government, basically, dealings with any form of government is particularly favored on Saturday. Aside from that, because Saturn rules, like I said, the bones, right? So any activity involving the bones, dental work, this is less likely because for most people, I think this is the weekend. But yeah, sometimes in some cases, offices are open on Saturday, so you can schedule things that have to do with the bones, the feet, the teeth, again, very favored on Saturday. Any dealings to do with these parts of the body are very favored on Saturday. Same thing because Saturn rules minerals, right? So any kind of like getting a blood test for whether you have mineral deficiencies, very favored on Saturday, yeah. Aside from that, Saturn also rules history. It rules old people, so anything old. But it also particularly rules history, right? So if, you want to read about history, very good to do so on Saturday. Or maybe not even about history itself, but let's say if you want to read a book or a memoir of someone who lived a long time ago, Saturday is the right time to do it. And aside from that, dealing with the resources of the earth. Now, this is more specific, I would say, but I don't know, if you're working in, geology, let's say, and you are looking for gold. I don't know who does this. You might think, I actually met some hobbyists who are looking for gold in areas. Definitely the best, would definitely be favored on Saturdays, right? So anything involving rocks, geology, bones, archaeology, looking for dinosaurs and stuff, all of this favored on Saturday. Anything involving history, basically. And then, of course, because Saturn is friends with Venus and Mercury, everything connected to Venus and Mercury is also favored to a slightly lesser extent, but still favored, right? So again, everything I mentioned for Mercury and Venus in the previous days, which are Wednesday and Friday, respectively, all of those activities are also favored on Saturday. Now moving on to last but not least, Sunday, right? Sunday, which is ruled by the sun. Now, as I've said before, the sun the sun rules the father figure. It rules authority figures in general. It also rules children. It also rules creative self-expression, individual expression. So it's all about me, to some extent also pride and ego, right? Standing out as an individual. That's also ruled by the sun. Vitality, right? Things that require energy, things that require passion. The sun rules the heart chakra. That's why it also connects to the 5th house. Even though it's not quite in the same way as Venus does it, the sun is also about love, right? So the sun is about what you love, but it's more of a spiritual love in the sense of it's more about not what gives you pleasure, unlike Venus. It's about what makes you get out of that bed in the morning, right? So what do you love to do? What do you love to create, right? Sun is the creative force. It's also any activities involving heat, like I said. So cooking, definitely very favored on Sunday. As well as anything involving heat. I don't know. Like barbecues, which is also cooking to some extent. I don't know. Going to a camp and building a campfire. All kinds of things, right? So anything involving heat. If you're at home, just burning candles, but of course don't try to, be careful not to burn down your home is what I'm trying to say. And then of course things like, if there's anyone into this, because it's very specific, right? Taking a glass blowing class would definitely be favored most on Sunday. Right, again, all of these operations requiring massive heat are going to be favored on Sunday. Pottery to some extent, right? All kinds of things. Anyway, moving on. Moving on from the heat aspect of the sun. Aside from this, like I said, the sun also rules the cardiovascular system. I don't know if I said it in this video so far. I've said it in other videos. So the sun rules the cardiovascular system, the heart, right? And everything else connected to it. And any kind of blood. Well, blood is actually also ruled by Mars. Actually, I should have said that on Tuesday. So if you have any kind of issues like, heaven forbid, blood poisoning, hopefully not. But I don't know, if you have any kind of wounds, for instance, that have to be treated, definitely best to do it on Tuesday. But aside from that, right, the blood itself, the quality of the blood tests. I know nobody does blood tests on Sunday, but technically that would be the best day to do them according to astrology. Second best days to do blood tests would be the days that are ruled by sun's friends, right? So that's Tuesday, that's Thursday as well. To a lesser extent, also Monday, tolerable. But the second best days would be, like I said, Tuesday and Thursday. Oh my god, holy shit. Sorry about interrupting. I just realized, because I had blood tests recently. I think it was like in April. No, I think it was in May. I had blood tests and I went on Tuesday. I remember now. I didn't even realize it. I didn't connect the dots at the time. But I'm telling you, I have been connecting dots about activities done on certain times of the week, certain days of the week for years, probably more than a decade now. And I kept, seeing these really fun, what do you call them? Idiosyncrasies, maybe? I don't know. These coincidences, I guess. Same thing with cardiovascular issues. Even if you cannot go get, in most cases, unless it's an emergency, heaven forbid, right? People don't go and get a cardiology exam or an EKG on Sunday, although that would be ideal, right? Because that's the day of the week that rules anything to do with the heart. But even if you cannot go and get medical tests during this time or consultations during this time, you can still do things that are good for your heart during this day. So of course, exercise. I think I should have gotten there sooner. Took me a while to remember. But again, because the sun is also friends with Mars, Sunday is very good for exercise as well. But I would say more so types of creative exercises or exercises you do for fun, right? As opposed to like on Tuesday, you are better off doing exercise just for the sake of getting stronger. And in fact, on Tuesday, the more challenging the exercise, the better it is, right? Because Mars likes challenges, likes to push itself. Would like you to push yourself. But yeah, creative exercise like dancing, swimming, all of this stuff, or just like I said, any kind of exercise you love to do. Like if you love to go jogging, then you can go jogging on Sunday. Definitely very favored, right? But I was getting to the subject of, doing things for your cardiovascular system, right? Anything to like relieving stress, like taking certain supplements, like I don't know, any kind of treatment that you can think of that you can do on Sunday for the cardiovascular system would be very favored. Again, since sun rules, fatherhood, the father figure, or any kind of male authority, especially male authority, but it could also be women with some dominant sun energy, right? So, I don't know, activities like spending quality time with your father, or if you are a father, fathering your children, spending time with your children. For anyone, actually, if you have kids or if you like to spend time with kids, Sunday is the best day to do so because, again, the sun rules children. Aside from that, anything involving the government, right? So, again, since at least in most of the Western world, as far as I know, Sunday usually is a day off. So you won't be able to access like public service or something, but it's a good day to focus on things you might have to get done to prepare for things like, again, I don't know, calculating your taxes, for instance, or preparing papers for something to do with the state, the government. A visa application, very good to do so on Sunday. It could be your government, could be other people's governments, right? So any form of governing is very much connected to the sun, and therefore Sunday. And I think I kind of imply this, but any form of creative activity, especially creative self-expression, doing things for fun. So sun is also about entertainment, right? Going to the movies, playing games, whether it's, I don't know, video games, board games, whatever kind of games, right? Social games. I mean, like social games as in, society games, not social games. Anyway, anything involving logic, by the way, very favored on Sunday because the sun rules the fifth house naturally, the fifth house of reason, ideas, education. So focusing on studying, again, especially since Jupiter is a friend of the sun as well. So studying very favored on Sunday. And anything involving reason, like I said, so that means science, especially. So mathematics, anything that is very focused on logic is also very, very much favored on Sunday. Any kind of activity also that involves some form of research or getting to the bottom of things or finding a solution to problems, very much favored on Sunday because the sun is about shedding light on a problem. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think one more thing that I wanted to say for Monday, because I think I didn't mention this for Monday. So the moon is also friends with Jupiter. According to some sources, it's even friends with Mars, but I don't look at it that way. But it's definitely friends with Jupiter. That's the moon's biggest friend. So that means Monday is also positive for any kind of activity that Jupiter rules as well. So education, academia, travel, exploring, also maybe to some extent dealing with foreign cultures or foreigners, people from different cultural backgrounds than you. Any kind of religious activity, spiritual activity, right? Publishing, imagination, education, right? All of these things are going to be favored on Monday as well because of Jupiter being a friend of the moon. And yeah, this is pretty much everything that I wanted to say on this topic. Wow, I did not expect it to be this long. I think in my head I thought this was going to be a short 20-minute video, but here it is. So yeah, this is pretty much everything that I could say about the days of the week and the best activities to do these, well, the best activities to do on each day of the week. One more thing that I said I was going to mention is the fact that according to traditional Vedic theories, the ones that I have come across at least, I don't know if you have heard different things, please mention in the comment section, but this is what I have seen and what I've read, that the day, right, begins at sunrise. So it doesn't matter, it's not a fixed hour, right? So it's not like you can say Thursday every day. The day of Thursday begins at 7 a.m. every day or at midnight. It doesn't begin at midnight. According to tradition, it begins at sunrise, right? And then if you get into the hours, each hour is also governed by a different planet. But like I said, I'm not going to get into that theory. I think that's really splitting hairs. And of course, you can get into it. There was a time, a long time ago, when I was into tropical, where I actually had this calculator. I don't even know if those are still available anymore. That actually, I had a calculator on my computer that showed me the hour, each hour of the day. So it showed me the the planet that was governing each day. Yeah, so if it was Thursday, it was ruled by Jupiter. But then each hour, it also showed me what planet was governing that hour, right? And so sometimes I would see a lot of very cool coincidences again back then as well, hour to hour. But again, I think that's kind of splitting hairs, and I don't get into it to that extent anymore. But if you are interested in that, I don't know, let me know what you find out or what you analyze. I would be interested to hear about it. But yes, this has been pretty much what I wanted to share, and I hope that you will enjoy this content. And again, if you have personal experiences that could be relevant to the topic that you want to share, feel free to do so in the comment section. And once again, of course, if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, click on the notifications bell to see when I will post a new video. And aside from that, of course, if you're interested in becoming a member of the channel, you can check out the introductory part of the video to find out more information about the memberships, the prices, and anything they entail. And if you're interested in a private astrology consultation, I do consultations on a wide variety of topics. If you're interested, you can email me at the email address I will leave in the video description. And I can give you a list of prices, reading options, and other details, anything you might be interested in by email. And aside from that, if you are interested in tarot, last but not least, I have a tarot channel, and I will be linking it in the video description as well. I've started the tarot channel only a few years ago, whereas my astrology channel I've started in 2016. So it has been quite some time. But yes, if you are interested in tarot, go ahead and check it out. Maybe subscribe to that channel as well. It would very much make me happy. So yeah, this has been pretty much it, and I really hope to see you at my next video on this channel.